Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CLSR, and I'm your host, the counselor. Today, we're going to be talking about something that has a tendency to stick in us. It's called the self doubt. And we've all experienced it at one point or another in our lives. And we do have a tendency to question how well we are doing, how well we're functioning, what we're capable of. All of these uncertainties seem to be prevalent, especially now as we get older, right? And we look at our current environment, even with this pandemic, we, all of us are going to question this. But I'm not just talking about environmentally in the current situation, I'm talking about the decisions that we're making, these feelings of self doubt, right? The choices, we wonder, are we good enough? Right? It's just like this lack of confidence, the feeling of being incapable of doing things we need to do. And it's fair to say that there are people who doubt themselves around things that they don't feel that they can control. They just worry about these things constantly, right? Things aren't going the way they expect them to go. Or if they plan something and it just goes totally out the window, then that also casts some doubt on us. A certain level of self doubt is okay, right? Because it does indicate that we do understand that we do need to improve in areas of our lives to make our lives better and to do better. However, it becomes very problematic when it turns into persistent fear and self doubt, which can negatively impact our lives. And we need to look at self doubt and how it does affect us in our everyday functioning. I mean, how do we get mired into this self doubt? Well, it gets us so down. Some people can't see past the next day because they have this debilitating feeling of, insecurity and self doubt. So we need to find out what are some of the causes. How are we going to overcome it? And we're going to have to learn to overcome it. And there are ways that we're going to discuss strategies that will help us overcome some of this doubt. Now, just imagine you have a supervisor who has an assignment for you. And out of all the employees, you are chosen as the person to handle it by the supervisor. However, the confidence that the supervisor has in you, you don't feel it in yourself. So instead of you realizing and recognizing that this person's trusting you and is really giving you the message that they're confident in your abilities, however, you don't feel the same. Matter of fact, instead of the understanding that you're being recognized for your talents, you go into a panic. You're panicking, right? The self doubt comes into play. You panic about whether you are capable of doing what is being asked of you. You worry about failing to perform well or looking bad in front of your colleagues, right? And you spend lots of time stressing over little things. Every decision you make, has a picture in your mind of how things can go terribly wrong. It's really not surprising that this fear will play a big role in your play, this drama that you put in your mind. And what happens? You get all these images in your mind, all these insecurities come up, and it leads to procrastination. You put it off. You delay your work. You try to, get involved in something else. Somehow you are having difficulty dealing with this stress, dealing with this insecurity. You are actually getting to a point where you are doing the exact opposite of what is expected of you. And sometimes If you have a good supervisor, they might recognize that it causes you some stress and anxiety. So they check in with you to help you along. But many times that's not the case. Some expect you to run with it. Whatever the case may be, you're stuck. You're down deep, right? And you are committed to continuous learning and achieving your task. So you do hand in the work or you complete the assignment. However, when you do it, you know you could have done better. But what has caused all this stress and anxiety? These feelings of self doubt can persist if we don't get control of it. So let's figure out what are some of the reasons, what are the causes? What are the causes of this self doubt? Well, it could be number one, some of the experiences that you've had from the past. See, past experiences can have a huge impact on how you react or deal with situations, especially if you had bad experiences in the past from before, like being in abusive relationships or being fired without any real justification. These experiences that we had in the past could really impact our belief system, shake it up, right? Because if we continuously refer to our past, these experiences, without learning from them, this is really a waste of our future. It's a waste of our time. We struggle sometimes to let go of those past experiences. If you're having challenges dealing with experiences, negative experiences from your past or relationships, you need to make sure that you have to let the emotions flow to deal with your past experiences, to get over them. You got to cry. You got to break down sometimes. You got to release the stress. You got to admit and acknowledge. Let the tears flow. You have to think of a brighter future. You got to let go of all that heavy baggage. See, people make mistakes. Many people make mistakes, right? And they try to ignore their emotions altogether. And that's one of the worst things that you could do if you want to move forward. Not acknowledge those emotions, not deal with them, and let them compound, build up. And what will happen? It'll break you down or it'll keep you down. So you got to let the tears fall. You can cry. You got to release it. You got to shut that door. You got to scream into a pillow if you have to. Release that frustration. Let it all out in order for you to let go of the past. If you want a happy life, you got to do it right. You got to understand that you have so many layers to you. And if you keep looking back, there's no way you can look to the future. You can't advance. You don't understand. This is part of the strategy. You cannot keep moving forward. If you have a bad relationship, you can, but you got to release some of those emotions. You got to let some of that weight off your shoulder. You don't want to get lost in your emotions. You have to remind yourself that you are not your emotions. Your emotions affect you, but you are in control of how you feel. And that's where you start. That's where you begin. Don't let the negative thoughts get in your head. Allow yourself to express your emotions, but don't dwell on them. Negative thinking, that's very unproductive. And it distracts you from the positive things going on in your life. It makes it harder for you to let go of the past. These negative thoughts, they will tear your mind up. It'll twist you. It's almost like self-sabotaging thoughts, right? They deny you this right to be happy, right? Think about it. Certain negative cognitions can produce and maintain the state of depression, right? This is the research. It says this negative mindset that you have or you adopt, it actually stops you from opening up doors for yourself because you become implanted in this mentality. You can't get past it. This negative thinking can produce depression. And depression can produce negative thinking, which all leads to a cycle. And it's hard to get out of that cycle. It's hard to break free from that cycle, but it's not impossible. Right? It makes it much more complicated and even difficult for you to move on from the past, but it's very possible. Positive thinking. Too many people don't have it. And you know why? One reason is because they are absorbing negative thinking. Think about the time when you turn on the TV and you watch the news. What's coming out of there? Most of it's negative. Those are negative thoughts in your mind, right? If it's talking about relationships, you know, death, crime, politics, how the world, the economy is going, how the environment is, if you are absorbing too much negativity, you have to watch it. You cannot do that. You have to learn to shut it off. If you have an ex in your life that you're still trying to be friends with when you really don't want to be friends, but you're being cordial and you're hanging around with them, you got to move on. You can't be best friends. A lot of people are best friends with their ex. It's impossible sometimes. But sometimes it works. But the truth is, how are you going to open up your mind if you're still trying to cope with the past? If you can't work past the past. I like that term, past the past. Past the past. Get rid of it. Move on. Learn from your experiences. Take away those positives from the past. Yes. Acknowledge them. Learn from them. Learn from an experience. You learn more about yourself when you do that. It makes you happy. Understand it's not all good, but what was positive in it, take it and move on. Right? And what could help you is if you actually start to write things down. Right? Go through those experiences and write them down and review them. Yes, it could be challenging, it could be difficult, but it might be necessary, very necessary for you, right? If you went through a breakup, a tough one, well, you learned that, I want to learn what I did or what happened there so that I don't repeat it, right? And writing it down sometimes and outlining what happened in the relationship and saying, listen, I can't control everything. This didn't work out good. I understand, I acknowledge. And if it hurts, hey, if he left me, or she left me, that's just how it has to be. I can't change that. Certain things you have to acknowledge that you can't change. Right? And if you got let go of a job, don't let that take your life over. Don't let it go that way. You don't have to. I know of a friend who got a job, and once they had that job, and they had it for years, they thought they had it for life. And when they got let go, that was it. It seemed like they went into a shell. They couldn't function anymore. It's almost like they become a hermit. They lock themselves up. You'd be surprised what people do when they go through bad experiences and they can't get over it. And that person had a great job. Everything seemed to go, but they dealt with this rejection in such a way that they couldn't function. They couldn't manage. So what did they do? They didn't work anymore. Or if they did work, they worked a little bit and then they went back to hiding again. I mean, these things could really impact your life and put you in a down spiral. However, it doesn't have to be that way. You need to know if you did get let go from a job, there's other work out there, right? There, it might be a sign. See, instead of looking at everything as negative, it might be a sign that it's time to move on. Maybe there's other opportunities, but unless we see things, we don't believe things. That's the problem. A lot of you don't believe unless you see. And sometimes you got to believe before you see and believe that it is going to get better. I will find something. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about the how. I'm going to get in tune. Whatever this lesson that I have gone through, I'm going to learn from it, right? And I'm going to get things on track and make things better for myself and use these experiences to my advantage so I can learn from those experiences. But you also have to stop victimizing yourself. You got to get out of that victim mentality. When you get into the mindset of the victim, you find that all these thoughts lead to the past traumas. And it makes it almost impossible to stop living in the past if you're playing the victim. Your mind is constantly being bombarded and plagued by these thoughts. And you find yourself complaining all the time. You're thinking that everything that you do and experience is going to go wrong. And this is not the case at all. But you're in this mindset, this victim mindset, that you are not in control of your fate. You shouldn't think that because you experienced some failure, right? Your relationship, your job, certain things didn't happen. You have to remember that you have control in your life. And you don't have to be the victim, right? You have to be the survivor, the thriver. You got to be resilient. And the way you become resilient is you put positive factors, because you're going to have negative factors and you're going to have positive factors. And the counselor's already told you, if you want yourself or your children, your family members to be resilient, regardless of the situation, you have to look at the positive factors and the negative factors that they have in their lives. Okay? You got to stop being a victim. If you have positive, negative factors, and this is what I'm saying, write them down, even for your children. If you're figuring out, if, for example, if you have a child and you have outlined the positive factors and the negative factors, let's say, for example, your child's hanging around with somebody you don't agree with. So what you got to do is you got to figure out the influences in their lives and say, okay, I'm going to take a sheet of paper and split it down the middle. On the left, I'm going to put positive factors and negative factors. And so you write that down for your child. What are the positive factors in their life? The influencers. It could have a mentor. It could be in school. All the positive things that are going on. And then you write down the negative. They're hanging out with kids who don't have a job, or kids are in the streets all the time. It's that simple. So you go through the risk factors and the protective factors. Okay? And if you find that you have more risk factors for your child than protective factors, you've got to make the change. I don't care how drastic you got to be. If they're in a bad neighborhood, get them out the bad neighborhood. If there's too many risk factors, get them out. I don't care what people say. Get them out. Do that quick assessment. However, you have to stop being a victim and be proactive. You can feel good. This will improve your mental health and make you feel fantastic once you have tools that you can use. But you have to stop being a victim if you're going to move past these negative experiences and get over. Or if you're going to improve the situation, you have to understand how you could go about doing that. And one thing you don't want to do is wait for an appointment. How many of you are either talking about, like, this is so real, when you're talking about getting back at somebody for something that they did? Some people spend their lives, I'm going to do better. I'm going to look like I'm going to get this person back. They don't know me. So someone says something to you in your life. Oh, you'll never do better. You're not even educated. You don't even have a decent job. Oh, they done said all these things to you. Don't mess with your mind. And see, you was in a relationship and you took that relationship real serious. They said so much to you, you can't get past it. So when you split up, all those messages that they put in your mind, you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to what? Right the wrongs. And I'm telling you, that's one of the worst things you could do. I've seen women out there in relationships who've had some bad things, and men, but have had, like, let's say if they've been in a relationship with a man and then the man messed around on them, and then they turn around, and because this man messed around them, they blame themselves on what they didn't do. So what do? Once they're not in a relationship, they're too busy out there trying to prove something to that man, or to make themselves feel better, because that person made them feel so bad about who they were. So they spend their lives trying to live up to those expectations of somebody that really was just dogging them and treating them like garbage. And I say, don't wait for an apology and don't dwell on the other person's expectations. But you'd be surprised how many people get traumatized by the negativity they receive, even in relationships, and they spend their lives trying to recoup, trying to discover who they are or trying to live up to those expectations. And they'll never live up to them. So you can't. You got to learn, hey, it wasn't a great relationship. That person could say all these things about me. However, I got to do better. I got to believe in myself. You know, don't wait for somebody else and don't try to live up to someone else's expectations, right? Because one of the best lessons you can learn in life is to forgive and forget. And a lot of us have difficulty doing that. We have difficulty moving on, even past ourselves. Someone says something to us, we can't take it. We're so, oh my God, my world's going to end. Well, no, that's not what it is, right? That person was wrong. You could write your own story. Unfortunately, we listen to the people who we put our trust and our love into. And if they say something detrimental, we live on it. We live on it. We wear a heart on our sleeves, and that's a problem, right? And even if that person says those negative things and they apologize to you, even, you're still on the hook because you have invested so much of your life in their thought process. You forgot about who you were. So you can't do that, right? You have to learn to focus on moving forward. What happened in the past is a past. Don't prove anything to anyone else. It doesn't matter. No one should judge you. You got to prove it to yourself. Get your life together and take it one day at a time. But stop living in the past. Stop waiting for that apology. Stop waiting for that approval from somebody in your past or someone who's sitting in your face who doesn't have anything good to say. You have to expand your view of yourself, right? So if you've confronted your past and decided to move on, it's time to direct your attention to yourself. Get to know yourself better. Learn what makes you happy. One of the big questions people don't say is, what do I want? Not what does my partner want? What do my kids want? My supervisor or my friends want? What do I want? See, we're in a society where the society's teaching, oh, you got to do this, you do this, do that. No. What do I want? Once in a while, you have to ask yourself, what do you want? Learn what makes you happy. See, people, that's a weird question for many people. Do you know yourself? Well, you think you know yourself if somebody's telling you who you are. If you're with a partner and they're telling you all about yourself, you're up there getting those positive feelings because they're telling you. But then the reverse happens. See, when they're giving you those compliments and making you feel good, oh, you're on cloud nine. However, when they do the opposite and they put you down, it hurts. So it's like up in the mountain, down in the valley, right? And when that person chooses to put you up in that mountain, you go up. But when they have those comments that put you down in that valley, in that negative zone, you're there. And so their opinion matters. But you have to expand the view of yourself. Take part in activities that you enjoy. Don't be afraid to take a little bit of risk. Learn what you are passionate about. Understanding who you are and what you want in life will make you happier in the long run, right? Try to spend some time, and I know that's hard for a lot of you to do. Spend some time by yourself. Take care of yourself. Take yourself out for something to eat. Go for a solo walk in the park, right? You all know when you have those partners and you want to go somewhere, you feel obligated or guilty if you're not taking them with you. Or if you do go, you got to explain yourself. That means you're not taking care of yourself. You got to treat yourself well and learn to love who you are and find out. If you don't know who you are, you better find out. Because too many of you are with partners telling you who you are, or you're looking for their approval, for some insecurity that you have, or some self-doubt that you're holding on to. Well, you can't do that. You got to figure these things out. And you have to understand that you matter, but you're not taking time out for yourself. And we feel so guilty when we do that. Or we have to answer to somebody whenever we do. That's not happiness. That's why some people run. They run like the wind from their relationship because they forgot who they were, right? You know you're talking to a friend. Somebody's married for a number of years, of over a decade. Jenny's gone. What happened to Jenny? I don't know. Jenny probably found out who she was because Bert there was telling her all about her, how great she was. But Jenny wasn't saying anything. Next thing you know, when Jenny went to express herself, she's gone. Now, does that happen in every relationship? No. And should it happen? No. But it happens. Some people wake up, and it's because they go too fast when they're young. See, some of these young people, even today, what's the first thing that they do? A lot of them, and don't give me no excuses, but a lot of them will get up there even in their early 20s and move in together, right? Or from high school sweethearts. Oh, we know the odd story of the high school sweetheart where they've been together 30 years. We know about those stories and they're wonderful. However, if you hook up too early, and you don't know yourself, and you end up for safety and security or for employment or whatever you call it. The point is you done hooked up. So that independent self becomes a dependent self. So you end up living with somebody. So then you live with somebody and you're learning about them, but you forget about yourself. I really believe that all young people should get an opportunity to live with themselves, learn about themselves before they end up hooking up with somebody else. If you do that, you're a better person, I believe. Now, the odd case doesn't work. Yeah, you hear of it. But then when you hear people who are young hooking up right from high school and then they've been together 5, 6 years, and next thing you know, that person's gone at that relationship. And it could be because the person doesn't know themselves or they want to go out there and discover who they are. But they don't feel that they can do that under that control system that they're in or those arrangements. I've heard of people who've had children, right? Who've been married. And husband too. Men do it all the time. Women will do it, but it seems like it's more surprising when a woman would jump ship, right? A man jumping ship, oh my goodness, a lot of women expect that. But when a woman jumps ship, oh, that's news. That's headline news. And someone would never tell you, but the truth is that person didn't find themselves. They were in an arrangement, and somebody could have been something that happened, something they experienced, or somebody they talked to whispered in the ear and said, "Who are you?" And they pondered it for a week. And a lot of them are reading books. Partners are reading books out there trying to find out who they are. And the truth is, the only way you're going to find out who you are is get out there and be a star. Be who you are. Find out who you are. You can't find out who you are if you're under the finger, under the thumb. And sometimes that's what it takes. People look at it as negative, but sometimes that's a matter of life and death for a lot of people. But this is what happens when we self-doubt ourselves because we are really caught up in this negative past experience and we are overwhelmed with our emotions and we don't know ourselves and we're holding on to something that we can't control. So what you need to do is get some control back in your life. And in order for you to move forward, you got to release some of that past. You got to accept it, close it off, forgive it, whatever, but you can't ignore it. And that's what a lot of people do. They just ignore it. And they think they can run from their past, but you can't because it holds you back. That real you inside you, that one that is a natural happy person, is suffering a little bit. It's because they're holding on to something and they're not really 100, right? There's something there. And that self-doubt becomes a part of who they are. And they wonder, a lot of you wonder, why am I feeling this way all the time? Why am I not as confident? Because you're holding on to things. That's one reason. But we've discussed how you could work through that, right? Live in the moment if you have to. Enjoy the present. Stop talking about the past. I can't even tell you how many times people keep talking about the negativity of the past. Enjoy the present. Enjoy your health. Enjoy your situation. If you got people that love you, enjoy it. Right? Be present in each moment. Look around you. Appreciate. I'm in this country and I'm looking around and all I hear, whether it's work, the bus, right? Sitting in the mall, people are crying and complaining about things. Always, like, you ever hear those people at work when you at work and all such and such is doing this or this? All negative. It's got to change. And if it doesn't, you have to change. But aren't you tired of that? And sometimes you just feel like, oh man, I got to deal with this person. No, stop taking it on. Live in the moment, be present, appreciate, because we're going to have our ups and downs, right? This does not come naturally to most people. It doesn't. They carry too much baggage, right? They take on what other people are saying, right? As well as they focus on themselves and what they're doing, right? And they don't understand that they got to live in the moment. You can't overemphasize your thoughts. You can't overindulge the past. You can't take and change the past. You got to work on it and move forward, right? You got to forgive. You got to set your boundaries, right? Too many people are carrying, right, baggage, and they're distributing that negativity. They're worried and talking about their worries, talking about the world in such a negative state, and it gets them down, right? And those negative thoughts impact your confidence. We just have to take perspective, people. One of the most encouraging, motivating things that you can do is to leave the past in the past. Remember, what has happened has made you who you are, but it doesn't have to define who you will be and who you are at this moment. You have to focus on the now, on the present moment, on what you're doing in your life. Choose to be a positive person, and it will open up opportunities and doors for you, and you'll be happier in your life. You'll understand that you can succeed despite what other people say. You will be able to achieve your goals. But if you are carrying too much, no, you're going to be stopped. You're going to struggle. And you don't want that. Well, this is part one of self-doubt. And we're going to continue on because this subject needs to be analyzed. And I want you to be like the wise old bird and spread the word, because we're going on to part two. Thank you.